These inks are like trying to wake up my kids in the morning to go to school. Hello, my friends, Bella Maldonado here, and it's been a while. It's been a while since we've hung out. So I'm glad to be back, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was on a trip in Europe. First stop was Ireland, second stop was Italy, and I think as a tribute to that trip, I'm gonna be using my La Corte de Tarocchi tarot deck, which I actually purchased from Italy, not on that trip though. I did order it online, but the funny thing is I actually did see this deck in one of the shops in Italy. And I think it was going for 54 euro, but if you go to the website, I think it's at 41 euro. So, you know, might be worth checking out the website. And this particular deck was illustrated by Anna Maria D'Onofrio, and the publishing company is Il Meneghello. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they have a specific number of copies that they've made. This particular one was 2,000, and my number is 716 out of the 2,000 that they created. And this is a really great deck. What I love about it is that it looks old. It has that Renaissance feel to it. But if you look at the style of the art, it's kind of modern and cartoony, which I think is so cute and so cool. And I love the shape of the cards. It's a lot of fun to hold. The shape is just so cool, and the paper texture, it feels old and gritty. I love it. So, what are we doing in today's video? We're going to be creating art, and for inspiration we're going to do a tarot card spread that's going to help us figure out what kind of art we're going to make. So let's shuffle these guys. This is pretty thick, so let me just break it in half and then shuffle a little bit here. I was so tempted to buy a deck in Italy, I gotta tell you, but I have so many, and I don't have the room for it. And I figured, well, I already have this deck that I purchased online from Italy, so that's close enough. You know, I was really fighting with this because how could I not purchase a deck from where tarot came from? But again, I had to keep going back and forth and convincing myself, you technically have a deck from Italy, so don't lose your mind over this. Okay, here we go. That's a good enough shuffle. So we're going to use my standard 4-card spread. So this card is going to tell me the theme of my art, what color I should use, what medium I should be using, and what my focal point is going to be. So let's take a look. Our theme is the star. Let's take a closer look at this, shall we? Okay, look how cute. Look at the little bird in the tree. I mean, come on. How can you not love this art style? That's adorable. So the star card is about hope. It's also a way of helping us navigate through life, right? Because you have the star that shows us the way. So I'm gonna just keep that on hold. Obviously, this card has so many other meanings, but those are the first two that pop to mind. So let's just think about that as we go through the other cards. This is our color. So the first thing that popped out at me was the brown in the dog and the wolf. So we're gonna make sure that we use some brown in our art piece. All right, the medium, we have the Empress. So what are some quick words that come to mind when we think about the Empress? We think about someone who's nurturing. We think about somebody who is creative and who is able to create abundance. So what can we think about in terms of medium, in terms of art supplies that have a similar feel? The Empress is also somebody who's in charge. She has authority. You know, let's go back to the theme of abundance. I think I want to go with that because I can use that in terms of my art supplies and thinking of what art supply do I have in abundance? And I think I'm gonna go with my India inks. I have a set of 24 bottles, all different colors. That sounds pretty abundant, right? I think I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with my India inks for my medium. So let's see what our focal point is gonna be here. Judgment. Okay. So in Judgment, the first thing that caught my attention were the sleeves. And I see moons and stars, and it's reminding me of a solar system or a galaxy. So maybe I'm gonna do that. And I like how it ties in with the star, because we have stars in the galaxy and we have the star as our theme. And look at that, they even match. Look at them, they're twinsies. So I think we're definitely gonna go with some kind of galaxy, solar system kind of theme. We're gonna use my India inks, which I have in abundance. Probably have a little too much for my own good. The color, or a color that we're gonna use, is going to be brown. Okay, all right. I'm liking how this is going, although I am a little nervous about the India inks, because even though, yes, I have an abundant amount of inks, I never actually use them. So I don't know how this is gonna go. It can be a complete mess, or it can be a piece of inspirational art. All right, guys, let's make some art. So before jumping directly into the India inks, I wanted to test them out a little bit. So I took out my sketchbook, art journal, I don't know what you want to call this. This, I don't know what this is. This is a big fat stain that came with the book. I think eventually I want to paint something on the cover and get rid of that. But anyway, that's another story. I wanted to play with the India inks. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know how they work. I don't know how they blend. I don't know how they apply. So I just wanted to throw a bunch of color onto the page just to get an idea. And I learned a few things. From what I've heard from other artists, they pretty much say that you can use India inks in the same way that you use watercolor, which is true up to a certain point. You can certainly use the wet on wet technique, the wet on dry, all of that is great. But these India inks dry a lot differently than watercolors do. You have to be quick, because these guys dry up really quickly. And once they're dry, the ink is permanent. You cannot move it, you cannot budge it. These inks are like trying to wake up my kids in the morning to go to school. They will not move. They will not budge. I can take a spray spritzer, spray my kid's face with water, they will not move. Same with the India inks. You take a spray bottle, spritz it after it's been dry, it will not move. It is there permanently, which is, a good thing and a bad thing. You just have to learn how to use that feature. So you'll notice that there are a lot of hard lines here. You can kind of see where one color ends and the other begins, not a whole lot of blending. And that is all on me, because, again, I was just experimenting, and I kind of let these colors dry, and I figure, okay, I'll blend those later. There is no later. With India inks, it's now or never. So you'll see over here, there's some good blending, and that's because I did a lot of wet on wet techniques here, and I added new colors before they dried, so there's really nice blending. But here, you can see where the dark blue starts and where the yellow begins. I learned some things there. Now that we've learned some lessons, I think I'm ready for the real thing now. So right now I'm just taping down my watercolor paper so that it stays nice and flat, and also so that it creates some nice borders around the final piece. Okay, I've got my India inks lined up over here. I've got my dirty palette over here. I've got some brushes. I think what I first want to do is maybe draw some circles, because in the spread, what I thought was really cool was that we had the moon card in addition to the star card, which I didn't even pick up on this. There was a moon card. So, I mean, our galaxy was pretty much laid out in front of us. So I'm going to draw a circle here for maybe one planet. And then maybe I will use this quarter for maybe another little planet or a moon or something. So let me just draw this half circle. And I'll just use that as a guide for my little orbiting spheres. I think next we're gonna add some of this yellow ink, and I'm gonna use this as a start for my background because what I'd like to do is start layering the galaxy, you know? So I want some really bright yellows in the background and maybe some oranges, and then eventually get into our dark brown. The brown is what came up in our reading, so I'm gonna use that kind of as my final layer. All right, so let's grab this yellow, because I think this yellow is the brightest out of the three. Yeah, we're gonna go with this one. So let's put some yellow in here. Then I'm just gonna lay some water here because I want to do a wet on wet technique. And what's great about the wet on wet technique is that when you apply either India inks like these or watercolors, is that the color just spreads out beautifully on its own. So now I'm gonna take a little dip in the yellow and drop some in there. And I'm just kind of putting it in different places, not really thinking too much about it. So now we're gonna add some orange to the mix. This orange is really thick. I don't know what's going on with this. So I applied a blow dryer to this just to get the color to dry up a little faster. And I'm gonna just apply a little bit more water to some random spots here. And then I'm gonna grab some of this orange. All right, so I'm just gonna start randomly throwing some orange into the mix here. And I definitely want to add some water to these guys because I don't want those hard edges that I got last time. Although, you know, depending on your stylistic choice, you may want those hard edges, but I think for my little project here, I would prefer nice, smooth, blended edges wherever possible, because again, this is my second attempt, okay? So yeah, they might not be as smooth as I'd like them to be. Some of these little puddles here need to be soaked up. So I'm just gonna dab a little bit with my paper towel. All right, so now we're gonna start with our browns because brown is what came up in our tarot reading to use. So we're gonna take advantage at this moment. So I'm using my terracotta color and I'm going to put that in my palette and we're gonna start layering with browns. So this is my favorite part right here. I'm gonna use the blue for the planet. I'm gonna put water in there first and watch what happens when I apply the blue. So cool. I mean, that was worth hitting the like button, right? I mean, come on, that was cool. Hit the like button right now if you thought that was awesome. Okay, so here's the fun part, or at least what I thought was the fun part. I created a mask the same size as my planets so that I can cover them so I can start applying the stars. And that's always fun, but I was struggling a little bit, and you'll see why. I had this toothbrush, because that's what they say, if you want to put stars with paint, you use a toothbrush. But look what happens. Nothing came out. I think the bristles were too soft, because you really need a dry brush and really strong bristles. And this just was not, it wasn't working. Not at all. So I put that down and I searched for another brush. So here comes brush number 2, and same thing. Was I doing this wrong? Is my technique messed up? I don't know, but brush number 2 wasn't working. Again, I think the bristles were just too soft or wasn't dry enough. Something was happening. Maybe the paint wasn't thin enough. I don't know, but it wasn't working. So no stars are happening right now. But rest assured, I found brush number 3. Here we go. I found another brush, dry as heck, a little hard, and look, stars. I see stars. So this is awesome. The stars are coming out, and they're coming out in all different sizes, and some of the splatters are longer than others, which kind of makes them look like shooting stars, so that's pretty cool. It was working. I was thrilled. So the stars have been applied, I took off the mask, and now I'm taking out my Posca markers to add some more stars. And the reason why I want to use the markers is because the marker tips are going to be slightly larger than the paint splatter, and the different size stars are just going to give the galaxy a little more depth. And I used different color markers. I used a yellow and a white because using the different colors was also going to add to that depth that I was looking for in the galaxy. So now I'm removing the tape. We have our nice clean borders, and it came out all right. It's not bad. And here's our final art piece. We used stars, we used the moon, we used art supplies that we have in abundance. And we used a lot of brown, so I think we covered our bases in terms of the tarot reading. I hope you enjoyed this process with the tarot cards. Feel free to use it when you have art block, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see me fumble through brand new art supplies. Bye for now.